Hiya, hope you're all right. Hope life is treating you well. And welcome to video number 3, technical business elements that you're working on. So what I want to do is I want to really sort of look at the what it is that might be a problem, and then how we more than likely sort of put that towards our managers. And then, how we might be able to do that a little bit better. So what I'm going to start with really is talking about a few different technical issues that you might come across. So for example, we're going to start with databases. And if you've created a database, you know yourself that sometimes there are some issues with performance. And what we really need to do is be able to pass on this information to our managers and explain to them in non-jargon terms how we can fix this. One of the problems is that, when we go to talk to somebody, we'll start talking about indexes and, how we need to ensure that people can find information quickly, and the fact that any delay in getting information to our customers can be a problem for us as a business. And so if we looked at the technical problem of a database, and that a database has a set of queries, so for example, you're trying to find the name and address of somebody, and it may be that your database is slow because you don't have an index. Now, generally, we would walk into our manager's office and we'd say, right, okay, we've created that database. It's all up and running. Everything's looking great. However, we have a bit of a problem because every time our clients select a query on the database, the table is taking too long to scan through the information and find the person. And it's just like it takes over 2 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but obviously when you're dealing with lots of information, it is. Okay, now we might then say to our manager, well, okay, the query execution time is over 2 seconds, and it should be under 100 milliseconds, and therefore we need to add a B-tree index. And your manager's probably going to go, okay, because if they're not database designers and they don't have that technical knowledge, then the glazed expression, fidgeting, wondering what's going to come next. So we might want to come up with some form of analogy, some way to explain to our managers what it is we want to be able to create. So the first thing that we need to consider is that our users don't want to be waiting. They don't want to wait 3 or 4 seconds to find that information from the database. They want to be able to run a query and be able to get the answer, as I said before, in about 100 milliseconds. They don't want to be hanging around. So we might go into our manager's office and say, look, this is what's happening. The problem is we have our database, and if you imagine that database is like a phone book, and it's got the names and addresses of everybody in, I don't know, say Tenerife, which is where I am. And the problem is that they're not in any form of order. There's no alphabetical order, there's no index, there's nothing. So in order for you to be able to find that name or address, you're going to have to go through every single page. And your customers are not going to want to do that. So what you're going to say to your boss is, look, we need to create an index. This means that we're going to take the database offline for not very long, maybe an hour maximum. We can do this during the night. It will make it easier because our clients are less likely to need to use that database during the evening, and we can then make the index so that our clients are getting that information back immediately. We can do the indexing in about 30 minutes to an hour. We'll do it during times when there's low traffic. So as I said before, we could do it during the evening. Once it's done, then the clients are going to find it much easier to use and life's going to be a lot happier. And so by using an analogy, by using an example that is more real world and everyday rather than technical, we give our managers or the people that we're explaining to, that confidence that they understand what we need to do. And we are then confident that they will be able to say, yes, that 30 minutes to an hour is perfectly acceptable. Okay, so that would be one example. We might actually look at something like APIs. So I'm sure you all know that what an API is. So we attach this API and it's a third party, and you can get APIs from most places. We can get them for to find the weather. We can get an API from somewhere like Spotify so that we can create our own lists of favorite artists or favorite music. But one of the problems that we sometimes have with APIs is that there are too many requests, and the APIs end up running slightly slower than you would want them to. So if we go into our manager and say, oh, look, okay, boss, we're exceeding our API's rate limit, of 100 requests per minute. And we need to implement some request throttling with exponential back off, or switching to batch requests or cache responses, with to reduce API calls. Now, fine, if your boss is somebody who understands that, that's great. But there are going to be times when you've got somebody who doesn't understand. So it might be an idea, again, to look at a good example or analogy to help the person that you're talking to. It could be that you've got to say to your boss, look, okay, I've told you the technical terms. Now let me lay it out in some easier and more understandable ways. You're on the motorway. Well, it could be any motorway, but you're on the motorway. It's peak rush hour. Everybody's trying to get to work. So I'm on Tenerife, so I'm stuck on the TF1. You get to certain points of the motorway and you get this log jam. And so what we need to do is figure out a way to stop that motorway traffic from building up, or in this case, our API traffic from building up. And the way that we can do that is by ensuring that the requests that we get are able to be spread out, and that we can either reduce the number of requests that we are sending and spread them out over a longer period of time. So for example, you could say, you've got 150 people who are traveling to Los Cristianos, and it might be an idea if they start work half an hour or an hour later than normal, because then you can lower the flow of traffic. And that's a good way of explaining to your boss how you can ensure that everybody's API requests are being dealt with as efficiently as possible. It means that we don't upset somebody. It means that our clients are not upset with us. And it also means that we are able to meet the expectations of our clients, and that's what we want to do. You might decide that, there are solutions to this, and it could be that you want to add some caching. So you want to store some of the common responses for 5 minutes and allow the traffic to filter through, and then, allow more traffic to keep running. It may be that if we use something like a batch request, and we can send multiple queries together, and instead of one at a time. So it may take 3 days, but it's going to reduce the request by about 40%. So these are all ideas that you might want to use. And the third one, really, I suppose, maybe something like your code refactor or refactoring. So the technical problem with this is that the code base has become disorganized. It's hard to navigate. It's making it really difficult for the developers to find and to modify the features of that code. Now, I'm going to walk into my manager and I'm going to say something along the lines of, look, the code structure's poor. We've got lots of concerns. The business logic that's mixed with the presentation logic is being duplicated. It's duplicated code. We are having a number of modules that have these duplications, and it just means that it's untidy, and people, our developers are not in a position to be able to make this run as efficiently as possible. Now, if we look at it from a business point of view, if we're in a situation where we do have this problem with duplicate code, it could be that if we get any new developers in, it can take them 3-4 weeks for them to actually become productive, because what they're doing is they're fighting through all these duplications, which means that they're not actually doing the work that we want them to do. They are not developing this code, and that means we're paying people just to what the term would be, to put out the fires. So we want to stop that. We want to be able to make sure that the code's properly. So if we were, rather than going in and saying, look, we've got duplicate code, it's going across multiple modules, the business logic's mixed up with the production and the presentation logic, rather than doing that, we want to make something simple. So if you look or think about a filing cabinet, and you think about all the documents that you put in there, the idea with a filing cabinet is that if you have documentation for the same person, maybe you have multiple documents that relate to different things, rather than creating a new file for that person and putting one document in that file and another document in a file with their name on as well, and then finding you've got 15 files with the name Joanne Matthews on it, with one document in each one. We want to be able to take all of that information, make sure we don't have any duplicates, and put it in the right place so that it can be easily accessed, and any documents that you want to look at or you want to be able to consider are there, and they're in front of you. Okay. We've got a few options. We could do what we call a big bang refactor, which is where we take 2 or 3 weeks to reorganize and go through the code, find those duplicates, and ensure that they are taken out, and that everything is cleaned up. We want to make sure that we don't cause any problems by taking out something that we need. because that would be a disaster. We might actually refactor by, do the code refactoring by spending sort of 20% of our working time trying to go through this, and then the rest of the time continuing to develop. Whichever way you do this, and whichever way you decide is the best to actually refactor this code, the thing that you need to make sure of is that your manager understands what you're going to do. And if they're non-technical, you need to have put it into some analogy or some real world story that they're going to understand. Now, as a bonus, and one that is really, really common, we're going to also look at how we would explain why the server has gone down, or why we've had an outage of the server. Now, this is a problem that happens. It happens to a lot of people. It may be that the production server has crashed due to a memory leak. And so, these are things that need to be sorted out as soon as possible. But we can't just go stomping into the boss's room and going, we've had a memory leak and in the image processing service, and it's causing loads and loads of problems. Everything has stopped working, and there's panic everywhere. So we need to explain that we can't afford to have our server or our website to go down for 45 minutes. It's first thing in the morning. It might be the time when we have the most traffic, and that is, that's a lot of revenue that a business can lose. So we need to explain to our boss what we need to do. So if we're going to explain to them about a computer memory leak, we might just say to them, look, if you consider the memory of a computer like a car park that has 100 spaces for cars, the way our software is supposed to work is that it will leave, it makes sure that one car can leave before another car comes in. And it's like the barriers at these automatic car parks that we go to. The ticket machine won't work unless it's counted that a car has actually left the car park, so that people are not just driving around in a circle and you've got this traffic jam that just makes a mess of everything. So we need to make sure that there is a role where the car park machine goes ding ding, yep, that person's left, now we can let somebody in from the other side. Okay, now the way that we're going to fix this is we're going to go and look at it immediately. We want to try and find any bugs. We want to make sure that our website's stable. We want to just double check, but we need to add some better monitoring to it. We need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And to do that, we may need to schedule some maintenance work at the lowest part of the site's day, so when we have less traffic. And so what I wanted to try and get you to understand is that not everybody is okay with jargon or the technicalities. They might not know what code refactoring is. They may not understand, when we talk about a memory leak. And we need to make sure that anybody who's involved, anybody that this affects, is able to understand fully what we're talking about. So anyway, I know really I should say right at the beginning of the video, if you want to see some more, if you're interested in learning more about how you can use your business English as a developer, then please, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thumbs up, obviously, are going to help, because as you know, as developers, as technical people, algorithms need to be fed. So if you can feed the algorithm for me, that would be fantastic.